Week 9 waiver wire additions and streaming options, baby. Let's get it.
Woo!
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Tap. My name is Michael, and this is John, and we are a fantasy football podcast. We have got our Week 9 waiver wire targets, additions, and streaming options episode today. John, are you excited?
Always excited. We got some of my favorite people in the fantasy world on this list, even though one of these quarterbacks might be on a different team come the end of the week. But, always excited.
Yeah, trade deadline is today at 4 p.m., baby. Wondering if we've already seen one move, Von Miller going to L.A. That's crazy. That defense is going to be nasty. So
look really, really nasty for about 3 games.
Oh my gosh,
one of them gets hurt.
So don't forget, there are 4 teams on bye this week. That is Seattle, Detroit, Tampa Bay, and Washington. So if you have any of those guys on your team, plan accordingly. Maybe you need to pick up some of these guys to stream or add to your roster. So let's jump into it. Our quarterbacks. First one, our heart is Tua Tagovailoa playing against the Houston Texans. Should be a good game for him. He's had, other than this week, he's had 2 week 1 quarterback finishes. Or 2 quarterback 1 finishes. What am I saying? Including one was quarterback 1 overall. Going up against a weak Houston defense, he should have a very solid day and should compete for a top 12 QB finish.
Yeah, I think Tua is going to have another one of his great weeks here coming up. As you said, going against Houston, who currently right now has allowed the 6th most points to the quarterback. I think it's a great way to stream if you're someone that's been rocking, maybe streaming Taylor Heineke back and forth. You can get another great streaming option out of that. Or if you've been running Jared Goff, and obviously the biggest quarterback out of the week is going to be Tampa Bay's Tom Brady. So I think Tua is going to be putting up some great points.
I agree 100%. He's only rostered in 44% of leagues, so go get him. Carson Wentz going up against the New York Jets defense and team in general. Carson Wentz has been quietly having a great year. Yes, he's coming off of a bad week where he probably lost in the game, but will be a good fantasy option this week, even though the New York Jets are coming off that pretty much shutting out Joe Burrow. They played really well.
They played very, very well. They've got the next GOAT at quarterback. That first-round draft pick on Zach Wilson. Should have just kept with the guy they signed off the waivers and Mike White. So I think the Jets might be putting a run for the money against the Colts, but I do think Carson Wentz is still going to get the job done. He has been a little pick-friendly lately, so maybe he can calm himself down a little bit, not try to be a Patrick Mahomes type player, just hold on to the ball and sack. But I do think that Wentz is going to has another great game for him. Even this week, when he didn't look good on paper as far as watching him play, he still put up some solid fantasy numbers just due to some of the opportunity he had. Really lit up Michael Pittman early.
Yes, he did. He's been very consistent, very, very consistent quarterback, currently the quarterback 12 on the year. So just super consistent, and I think we're going to see another week. He's got a nice string of games. These next 2 games are really nice for him. The Jets and then the Jacksonville Jaguars. He does play Buffalo, but then after that, he has Tampa Bay, whose defense is secondary is not great, and then Houston. So he's going to have 4 usable weeks coming. 4 out of the next 5 at least usable weeks. So, and he's owned in just over 50% of leagues. So go check your waivers. Derek Carr going up against the New York Giants this week. He is another quarterback who's had a good year. Another consistent guy. He's only had 1 bust game, and that was against Chicago. Coming off this bye week, he should have a solid day. He's thrown for over 300 yards in all but 2 games, and he's had 2 or more touchdowns in every game except for 1. passing touchdowns. So he's getting it done. Like I said, very consistent.
I
So
really like
pick
his
him up.
schedule coming up. Like you said, he's got the Giants coming up this week, then following that up with Kansas City, Cincinnati, then Dallas, and then Washington, then playing Kansas City again, entering the fantasy playoffs. So if you are in a situation where you've been streaming one of the quarterbacks on the bye weeks, or maybe your quarterback went down recently, he might be someone you can slot in and get a few weeks out of as well. And I do think he offers a really reliable floor. And then obviously the Raiders have really surprised us in some games this season. So it's possible that he has another quarterback one on the week finish.
Yeah, very, very possible. And another good thing is he's off his bye. He's coming off his bye. He doesn't have a bye, obviously, the rest of the year. So if you have a quarterback maybe who has a bye coming up, whether it's this week or in the coming weeks, roster Derek Carr. You won't have to worry about that. So let's jump on over to the running back waivers, baby. First up, Carlos Hyde. With James Robinson, they said it's not as serious as it could have been. But he is going to be he is considered day to day. Could be held out this week. So gotta keep an eye on him. So go pick up Carlos Hyde. He should take that, rollover pretty well. He did, after James went out, carrying the ball 9 times, getting targeted 8. So, and we saw it at the beginning of the year. He was kind of 50-50 there, or almost. He was being used pretty heavily by the Jags.
Kind of ruin it for James Robinson early in the year.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great pickup. Possibly someone you want to just kind of pick up and hold. On this list today, we've got a handful of guys that you're not playing them this week. Some of them are considered handcuffs. And right now I'm picking up Carlos Hyde. And if Robinson doesn't play, he turns into a weak running back 2 or a flex option for you. And if Robinson does play, you still kind of just want to hold on to in case Robinson gets hurt again.
Yeah, 100%. So a guy who stepped in and surprised us, Boston Scott, owned in under 5% of leagues, got the bulk of the work. I mean, he was clearly, the running back. They used him more than they used Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty sad. 2 touchdowns, 60 rushing yards, averaged 5 yards per carry. And Jordan Howard too. He's another one who, surprising. I haven't heard that name in forever. But Boston Scott looks to be the quote unquote lead back there, if you will, there in Philadelphia with Miles Sanders out. So go grab him. Jordan Howard did have 12 carries as well. So you could, if you're really desperate, he's another guy. Both of these guys could. Both Jordan Howard and Boston Scott. I said if they're very desperate.
I mean, very, very desperate. I think the only reason we saw anything from Jordan Howard, he only got 16 total snaps. The only reason we saw anything from him was because the Eagles had a 30-point lead going into the third quarter. So they were just giving it everywhere. What was most surprising was that he didn't get Gainwell involved in much capacity, but on his limited touches, Boston Scott was able to produce a lot of fantasy points. He only was in the game for a total of 29 snaps last week. So when he was in there, he was being used nearly 50% of the time that he was in. So really liking him moving forward, especially with Miles Sanders on IR. And if Jordan Howard does start getting some usage, you definitely start taking a look at him. I don't know if it's time yet, though, but if you have deep leagues and you need it, you can go.
Ty Johnson. Feel bad. KBKC, shout out. We wanted to use him, and we told him to use Samaje Perine. That game did not turn out anywhere what we thought it would. I mean, period. Point blank, period. I had Michael Carter in a couple leagues, so very excited to use him. Got to use him, and it paid off. So, but Ty Johnson getting usage. He's only owned in 5.6% of leagues. So, another guy who he's using the passing game. Any PPR format, and you need a handcuff, maybe you need a low-end wide receiver or running back 2 to fill in for your bye weeks or something like that. This is the guy to do it. Obviously, standard leagues, I really wouldn't be interested in him. But definitely any form of PPR leagues I am.
Yeah, I think he's just someone that you want to keep an eye on, and if you needs to get by with something, he's going to be available for you. Uh, so I think it's just more of a desperation pick at 5%, especially with these running backs that keep going down.
Yeah. Speaking of running back going down, Derrick Henry might be out for the season. Right now, it's between 6 and 10 weeks. 6 would be very fast. 8 would be average, and 10 would be a very long period of time. So, with that being said, the Titans signed Adrian Peterson today. He's only owned in 0.2% of leagues. Also, Jeremy McNichols, 1.9%. He's been on the team, but he's only owned in 1.9% of leagues. This is how I feel about this. If you need somebody, similarly, in my opinion, to the David Johnson, Philip Lindsay thing last week, if you need somebody that like a lottery ticket or something like that, pick. I don't think you can definitively say which one's going to be used the most. I think it's going to be a big split in that backfield. So pick one and roll with it if you need it, and just hope that they're the one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. You're kind of going with whatever. My money right now is more leaning on McNichols, just in the fact that he's been there this entire season. Peterson hasn't seen a snap all year. If I had to pick between the two, but I do think that McNichols did show a little bit, but no one's going to be able to replace Derrick Henry in the same capacity. There's no handcuff taking over his role. So just expect and understand that the Titans offense is probably going to be changing up this week, and it's going to be running a little bit differently. So don't expect 30 touches going to the two running backs.
Yep, 100%, 100%. Another one that I wanted to bring up, he's owned just over 50. He's owned 56% of leagues, and that's AJ Dillon. He's like, to me, he's like an Alexander Madison. He's a big time handcuff. Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison, he's in that conversation. You really want him on your team, especially if you're the Aaron Jones owner. You can handcuff him, but even if you don't, I would want him on my team. I don't have any shares of Dalvin Cook, but I have multiple shares of Alexander Madison, and it paid off big time for me this year. He's in that same category. Make sure check and see if he's out there. He's worth a roster spot.
Yeah, especially something you mentioned, which I think is a really good point, is he's just like Madison and just like Pollard. He's already shown that they'll use him when that stud back gets tired for a handful of plays, and that they just keep throwing them back into that role to give the guy a little bit of relief. So he is an absolute stud lock handcuff for Aaron Jones. And even has his own standalone value. I think he's definitely somebody you want to roster and just prepare, because obviously these guys go down very, very quickly, especially with this extra game. So AJ Dillon, good pickup.
And then finally, our last waiver wire pickup. This guy's another handcuff. Looked good when he got the ball. First day back in New Orleans, that's Mark Ingram, owned in 25% of leagues. Looked explosive. Looked like he wanted to be there, obviously being on his former team. So another guy, handcuff, will have games with standalone value. But like I said, another guy that you want to handcuff pretty much for Kamara.
Yeah, and he was only there for a couple days before this week started, so for him to get the little bit of usage that he did is a good sign for things to come. I would expect this to be one of his slower weeks as far as total usage, maybe not total points, but expect them to get him way more involved, especially with Jameis Winston going down. We could see them leaning on their rushing game a lot more heavily. And we've seen it before on that team. He was the handcuff there when Alvin Kamara and him were there together. So kind of regains that role pretty strongly.
100%. Let's move on over to the wide receivers. Not many today. First one's going to be Jameson Crowder. With a competent quarterback, these Jets receivers could really benefit. Jameson Crowder being one of them, had 9 targets, saw what he was seeing last year, just a plethora of targets, caught the ball 8 times for 84 yards, did very well. And honestly, I'm praying and hoping that Mike White stays as quarterback.
I'm praying for it too. I think he looked really good. You told us on Sunday and leading into last week, Mike's a good name. He's a good guy. He's going to ball out.
So
It's
it could be a big. It could
like-
seriously be a big upgrade for these Jets. This Jets offense, and you know the running backs did well. The wide receivers played pretty well. I mean,
yeah, competency at
competent
quarterback and
quarterback.
being able to extend drives and keep the ball moving, not even having to score every drive, but just giving those opportunities to the quarterback to make plays allows the fantasy teams to look a lot better. And when Zach Wilson's doing multiple turnovers a game, killing third and whatever yard plays, the whole fantasy team suffers.
Yeah.
So,
So.
but Jameson Crowder, I think, has a nice little upside.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I do agree as well. We've got another guy. That's Van Jefferson. Saw 6 targets. Got a little banged up. I don't know if he returned or not. I know on his big 68-yard catch, he got banged up. But that was in the second half, so I don't know if he returned or not. There's nothing about him being injured or anything like that. But another guy, big play upside. Has been on the field a ton lately. Past 2 weeks, it was 94% snap share, and then this week it was 84% snap share. And when he's on the field like that, he sees some fantasy production. So it helps. He's that guy who's going to stretch the field for Matt Stafford.
Yeah, especially with Deshaun Jackson not playing for the more. I mean, he's technically on the team, but has decided not to play as they seek a trade for him. So Van Jefferson stepped right back into that. No questions asked. I'm the number 3 receiver on this team. And like you're saying, he's been getting a very, very consistent share of the snaps so far this season. Within 80 snaps, which about 40% of his, about 10% of his, within 80 snaps of Kupp and Woods. So definitely someone that's going to continue to get involved this week or the rest of the season, and someone you're going to want to be holding on to, especially if Kupp or Woods goes down.
Yeah. Another guy. It's funny because we actually had a question about him in our live stream. Really couldn't go wrong with either of them. Jamal Agnew is who we're talking about. 12 targets, man. 12 targets. Only concern here for me is I think it's going to be a merry-go-round of who gets the targets. I don't think, between LaVisca and Marvin and Jamal. But he's very explosive. He returns their kicks and stuff like that. So he is a playmaker on that team. And obviously getting the ball into his hands is something they want to try to do. So go pick him up. He shouldn't be too expensive. He's only owned in 1.7% of leagues. So yeah.
Good one.
Yeah, I think he can feel like desperate flex whenever, when needed.
Yeah. I think he's kind of like that Tim Patrick role that I got nothing better and at least he'll give me something.
Yeah. So been consistent. 10 points the last three games. So huh?
He said he's killing LaVisca Chenault.
I know. Devonta Parker owned in 50.6% of leagues. He is an elite talent when he's on the field. He is a very good receiver when he's on the field. It's just staying on the field. He's on the field right now. He's healthy. Pick him up. I think he deserves to be on a roster. He's only owned in 50% of leagues, so go and check him there. We've seen him have wide receiver 1 weeks. We've seen him have a wide receiver 1 year. I think that he's a good talent. He's just got to stay healthy, and hopefully the injuries are behind him this year and he can play these last stretch of games.
Last stretch of games as a Miami Dolphin. I agree. Yeah, I think that as long as he's healthy, he's someone that can fit into a flex position very, very easily. But you just got to understand that he's more than likely not going to finish the game when you start him. So look at your points in the third quarter and say, okay, that's probably it.
Yeah. And then finally, we've been talking about these guys a lot. That is Christian Kirk and AJ Green. Christian Kirk's owned in 31% of leagues, AJ Green 35%. They're very similar in their target share. They still are. AJ Green obviously having that bonehead play at the end of the game. People are probably going to drop him. but I do think that they're both going to be, they can fill in your flex spot, wide receiver 3 spot almost week in and week out. AJ Green's currently the 31st wide receiver in PPR.
Yeah, no, I think he's good. I think he's great. I just say I do think he loses about 2% of his ceiling. I don't think Kyler Murray's going to trust him on or 4th and 2 or in the red zone on a drive again. He's going to look at the 3 other options and be like, okay, D-Hop's over there. AJ, no, you screwed me last time. I've never seen Kyler Murray throw his helmet before, but I think bounced.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I'm actually more worried about Kyler Murray than I am AJ Green.
Oh, yeah, you're looking at someone falling from the peak compared to someone falling from the 2nd floor.
Well, he's a high-end wide receiver 3 right now. No, that's not. I mean,
yeah, high end. Yeah.
He is.
He's very, very consistent.
So, So let's get on over to the tight ends. Somebody who is owned in quite a bit of leagues, but we just wanted to make him known. Don't forget Dawson Knox. I personally had to drop him in one league, just for roster spots and stuff like that, bye weeks, injuries. So go check him. Go see if he's out there. He is day-to-day now with that hand injury. He might miss one more game, it sounds like, and then be good to go. He's owned in 65% of leagues, so just take a peek. He should be a consistent tight end one when he comes back. So, and then Logan Thomas, another guy coming back from injury. I believe they do have their bye week this week. So he should be pretty cheap. And should be able to come back after this week, after the bye week. So he was working on the side of the field during practices this week, which is a good sign. But should be able to get him pretty cheap this week, being the fact that they're on their bye week.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree there with you. He more than likely is gonna be back. So, and does this kill Seals-Jones for anyone that's been picking him up, right?
Yep. Yeah, I would try to trade him away. I wouldn't just cut him. I would see, if somebody's a tight end needy, maybe he's on that train, or doesn't know that, Logan Thomas is coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, trade him for
Darrington Evans for Ricky Seals-Jones. Not Darrington Evans. I'm sorry, Jeremy McNichols.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see here. We've got CJ Uzama. Not one of his best weeks, but to be honest, it wasn't a good week for the Bengals in general. However, he saw his second highest targets on the year, being 4 targets. So he's going to be involved. He's going to be involved in this offense, and he's got the touchdown upside. He's only owned in 23% of leagues, and he's currently the tight end 10 in PPR leagues. Pick him up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's gonna have some solid games.
So, and then finally, somebody who has had 2 games with 7 targets, Pat Freiermuth, 8% owned. Big Ben really likes this guy. Got in the end zone this week. Beautiful catch. Do you see that?
What's that?
Pat Freiermuth catch.
Oh, his touchdown this week? Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Guy's good. He's one of the future. Him, Hawkinson, future of the tight ends. Hopefully Hunter Long maybe sneaks in there. But Pat Freiermuth, I think, is a great ad. Like I said, Big Ben likes him. I mean, you can tell if you're watching the games, if you watch the Steelers game, you can tell Big Ben trusts him and likes him. He wouldn't have thrown that 4th down pass to him in the 4th quarter if he didn't.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be a huge stud for that team. So in dynasties, if you got him, you found yourself a great stud. Hold on to him. Don't trade him away because you're going to get a lot of years out of it.
Yeah.
But if redraft, definitely someone that you're going to be wanting to look as you move into the playoffs because he's looking to step into like a step forget tight end almost.
Yeah, he's starting to be. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. These are our waiver wire pickups and our streaming options for week 9. Let us know if we missed out on anybody. If you think somebody shouldn't be on this list, let us know in the comments. Also, if you could smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that little bell icon, we would really appreciate it. All right, guys, thanks so much, and we will see you next time.
See ya.